Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Allie. I am going over today the Cricut Design Space for iPad application. So just kind of some features I like to use. So side note, sorry it's not the best way to record an iPad. I was having some trouble figuring that out, but it will get better. So let's open the Design Space app. Here on the home page, you can see some featured projects that you can do. Usually they're based on current holidays and things like that. So these projects are pre-done for you. You just click on them, either make them to send them to your machine or customize them. Here on the side you can see different categories you can go to look for projects or your own saved projects. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new project. So I have a blank canvas, not a pre-made one of any kind. So this is our canvas here, and I'm going to go ahead and insert image. So down here you can find the word image. Here you can browse through all different types of images. If you have Cricut access, you're subscribed to quite a few different images. So if you just search a basic term like the word cat, there's lots of options that come up. Some are just ones that you can cut, and some you can see the different patterns and things on them are what's called print then cut, requiring a printer. So I don't actually use those. I am not the one to go to learn more about them. Here I'm going to browse all images, and I'm going to use the filter. If we go down to what's called ownership, I'm going to click on uploaded. So these are images that I myself uploaded into my Cricut Design Space to use. So they're ones that I drew up in different apps and brought over to Cricut to use. So we're going to go ahead and click on an image set here that I created. So since we've inserted it, it will go here onto our canvas. So here's the image set that I drew up myself. I'm actually going to put a link below if you're interested in purchasing this image set that you can then upload yourself to use in your Cricut Design Space. It is available on my Etsy. So here I'm going to look, I have all the image just as one big image. So we actually need to ungroup them. So each, excuse my background sounds here of little humans. So we ungrouped. So you can see here in layers, each part of the overall image is a different layer. So some of those images have lots of little parts to them, which is why you saw a lot of different little layers. If we click on one, for example, it will show us where that is. But an easier way when I have a lot of little pieces here is to just by hand select after they're ungrouped, select which image I want to use. So I'm going to look here. Let's use these over here. So these are some sign borders I created. So if we click on this image and drag it, you can see that it's actually in 3 pieces. So 3 separate little layers. So let's undo that. And we need to drag a box to attach those 3 separate pieces together. I'm also going to weld them. So quick lesson, attaching means the different pieces will be moving together, will be cut together on from the Cricut, but when you actually weld them together, which doesn't matter in this situation, but normally when you weld pieces together that have some parts touching, then there's no longer a line like separating those 2 parts. There won't be a cut between them. It physically welds the pieces into being one cut. So here you can see I'm messing around with just changing the size of an image. So you can use that double arrow in the corner to resize, or you can go down and actually change it to be a more specific measurement what you're looking for by using the width and height features. You can type in what you're looking for. So here I'm looking at different text to use, different types of text. There's some that have writing abilities, some that are just single layer of cutting. But basically pick the text that you like, the font. And we're just going to put in some words as we're just practicing here. So there's the word I just created. Let's kind of an interesting font. I'm going to drag it here to be in the image. The cool part when you're dragging around in Design Space, you see that yellow line that's showing up. That shows up when your item you're dragging around is centered to the project, and both of those lines showed up, meaning it's centered horizontally and vertically, so it's right in the middle of that other image, which is really useful to use so we don't have to guess. I'm doing what's called separate to letters. I'm going to undo it because I don't need that right now, but you can use that advanced feature, separate each letter out so you can move them around individually. Another way is if you're wanting to change the space between all the letters. And then also we can look here at line spacing, and that doesn't apply because we only have one line of text. Same thing here if you're wanting your text to be left centered or right aligned, just like in other programs. And here you can see that we are cutting the image. You can also switch it to draw, so you can put it would look like this. You'd put the marker in your machine and have it draw the text for you. I'm going to undo it because I do want it to cut it out of vinyl. So I'm going to move this around here. Sorry for the train sounds in the background. Our trailer is located very close to a train track, which is kind of fun during nap time. So here I'm going to show you other ways to move your text around. So using the horizontal position or vertical position, like I just showed you, you can also move the text around, but I prefer to just click and drag the text around, but those features are helpful if you're wanting to move it just barely. You can do that with the horizontal or vertical positioning, changing that number a little bit. So let's go over to my image set again. So if we want to use this rolling pin, we're going to undo that. Remember, we need to attach all the little pieces of the drawing together. So drawing a box, it'll show you here what layers are selected. There'll be 2 layers selected. This picture is made up of 2 separate little drawings, so I'm going to attach them together. We don't need a weld because the 2 lines don't actually touch each other, so we don't need to weld them together to where there's not a cut between. So I'm going to take this image and mess around with it a little bit and just rotate it, grow it, shrink it until it's what we want. That's the fun part with Design Space. You get to kind of mess around with it until it's exactly how you want it to be. Again, remembering to move things around until you see that yellow line so it is centered. They center things for you, which is very nice. So let's put that here for now and decide what else we want to do. Let's add some more text. Remember, it's all just trial and error. If you're not liking how something's looking, you can use that undo button to go back. You can click on layers to delete layers, or you can go back and click on different words, such as the word kitchen we have already, and go to edit and change its font, change the font size, the spacing between the letters. There's so much you can do here. So I just added in some more words in a different font. Looking here, you can change how close the letters are spaced. And we're looking, positioning where it's at, the size of it, but I do prefer to just use the buttons in the corner of the word itself, unless I'm trying to do very fine details. Here are these features arranged. You can choose if you want what order you want your layers to be in. So if you want this to be the top layer, for example, if you had a big solid colored box behind it or something, we don't want it hidden behind it, so we would say send to front and bring it to be the very top layer. So we also have a horizontal and vertical flip buttons, not very helpful with words. I'll show you here with the picture. If you want your image flipped horizontally, I guess you could flip words, but that would just make it a little bit tricky to read, and I don't really see a huge point to it. So let's shrink this so it fits into our sign. So we're going to keep shrinking and then moving around until we see those yellow lines helping us line everything up. So this I'm showing you is just an example of a sign you could print, or you could have your machine cut in vinyl. You could also have it drawn on like a cardstock. Lots of different options with the Cricut, which is so nice. So now we have our sign. Looking here that we just created using some images that I drew up in some fonts from Cricut themselves. I'm going to go ahead and hide all of these other images from my personal set using layer and the eyeball looking tool. So we're just hiding the layers because we don't currently want the machine to try to cut all of those out. That would not be very convenient for what we're doing. So looking here, we're going to hit the make button and see what it looks like. So, oops, our sign no longer looks like a sign. Those words are not in it anymore. So that is one way you can cut it out if that's how you choose, and then you would just cut all the words and everything out separately and put them together on the sign. Another way, though, is to attach this all together, like we were talking about earlier. So if we attach it all together, the positioning of one item or words to another item would stay the same. So I'll show you here what that means. See, now how it looks on our vinyl is it is all, sorry, ignore the camera reflection. Again, I didn't have the best luck setting this up today, but as you can see now, all of the positioning is maintained. So that's one way to do it. Some people do like to do things out separately and then cut them and physically paste them differently onto your sign. That's another way to do it. Here you can move your object around, move your image around how you want it to save vinyl, and you can mirror if you're trying to do heat transfer vinyl. It has to be a mirror image, but we are not doing that. So that is our first sign here. So pretty quick and easy on how to do things yourself. As you can see, you can unlock the ratio if you want to be able to move around in that way, but I like to keep it locked because I want it to maintain its current shape. You can also change here, change the width of the sign. I have it locked so the height is automatically going to be adjusted to maintain that ratio. This is not the easiest image set here to show you to talk about layers, just because I do have many layers involved in the image set. So I'm actually just going to leave those hidden and insert them all again, because why not? It's an easy way to get back to them, so I can show you a little bit more of just some basics here in this Design Space app. So that's the first sign we made. It can be anywhere. It does not matter if it's in the corner, in the center of the screen. Your Cricut will know what to do. It's more so helpful to line it up just so you know grid lines, looking at the size of your items and everything. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to ungroup this image set again, since we pasted in a new one. Let's see, for example, if we wanted to use this image here I created. Oops. So let's go ahead and undo, and remember, you have to attach all those together. You can either do that through layers, finding the layers that's the dots, the layers that's the outside, but that's a little tricky. So let's just go ahead and draw the box method to separate those out over there a little bit from the rest of the images. So this is what we want. So let's attach this so it's all one image together. So now when we move it around, it all goes together like magic. Okay, so looking at size, let's go ahead and make this one 10 inches wide. You see I have the lock on, so the height adjusted accordingly to maintain the ratio. So you can go here and look at some Cricut provided images. So I'm just going to search for a teapot, because I don't have one right now pasted in, so lots of options. That's what's so nice about using Cricut Design Space, is they give you plenty of options. I'm going to just pick one or two to show you here what it looks like, so we'll insert those. Okay, so we want this item to be cut, not drawn. You can see what color it's cut out of. No fill, so it's not a print and then cut. We're doing just a cut. So if we want it to be all one color instead of having to layer multiple layers of vinyl, that's how we would do it. Let's go ahead and pull this teapot into our sign. I like this little feature here. If you saw in the bottom center, I clicked on it and drag it around. It shows you the different layers you have right now making that image. So you can see that there's a dark blue layer of vinyl and a black layer of vinyl on top of it. So I'll show you that again in another one. So this image here has more layers to it, you can tell, because there's more colors, so each of those will be cut out of different vinyl. So we take this bottom center button and kind of twist our image. You can see there's a black dot, and then the light blue, the yellow, and then the dark blue. Those are all be different layers of vinyl, so it really helps people that are more visual learners like myself to see exactly what you would be cutting out. That feature I don't think is used enough, and I really appreciate it. So let's go ahead over here. Once again, remember, if you're using this image set that I drew up for you from Etsy, go ahead and draw a box and attach. So the separate little lines all become one image. That's just how it works when you bring it into Design Space. So bring this image here. We're making a cute little T sign. So when I hit attach here, I attach the two layers of that big teapot. Basically, if you remember, there's a small black layer, that was the lid, and then a dark blue layer, that was everything behind it. I just wanted it all to be cut out of one piece of vinyl, not two layers. So that's why when I hit attach, it all just went solid black, which was my goal. Especially with two young kids running around, I don't have a ton of time for these very small details, like cutting 4 different layers of vinyl out for an item. So I'm just showing you kind of some of my tips and tricks of doing things a little bit quicker, but you can use as many layers as you want. Your project will look amazing. So here I just grabbed another font that I thought was pretty. I believe it was a Cricut provided one, not one that I've downloaded. Okay, so here I put some more words in. To practice with words, remember you can go here, change how close the letters are together, change the alignment. I'm actually going to, let's see, take away a space and enter the second 2 words down a line and see what that looks like. I'm actually going to do that again. So we have 3 separate lines. You can see they're left aligned right now. They're not centered. This looks okay, but I think I'm going to bring the word T back up and see how that works. And that's the fun part of Design Space, is mess with it until you are happy. So I'm going to try centering it. Don't like it. Let's go back to the left. Yeah, we'll leave it left aligned and get it where we want it to be. I have the ratios locked, so as I change the width, the height goes with. And now you can see, I'm going to slide it over here so we can see better, the line spacing I was talking about. So this changes the amount of space between the 2 lines of text, or 3 or 4 lines, however many you have. So that can be a fun, useful feature to get things looking in line how you want them to be. So I'm going to bring our teapot up here. So again, nothing is perfect today here. My goal really was just to show you a lot of the different useful features in Design Space for iPad if you haven't used it a lot before. So I'm going to take this teapot, this teacup here, and I'm just kind of moving it around. I'm going to try arranging it, seeing if sending it to the front helps at all. But now that I think about it, it is, because it's black on black, it's not going to help much. Yeah. So I'm more so just going to move it to where it's out of the space of the teapot. Trial and error again, figuring out all the little buttons and what they do. So we're going to rotate this teapot so it is actively pouring me a cup of tea. I could really use one right now. And I'm just going to try again. Remembering when you're moving a word down to the next line, I like to get rid of the space, as you saw. I like to delete the space between the words, just to make sure if you're trying to center or left or right a line that it is actually centered, and not considering a space in that equation. So I kind of like what it's looking like right now. This again could be drawn, it could be cut out of vinyl. If you wanted to cut it out of heat transfer vinyl, for example, to iron on a cute little tea towel, you'd have to mirror the image when you're over in the make feature, just because that's how heat transfer vinyl works. It has to be mirrored. So here I attached all of this together, so it is one solid sign. Let's see. And then if I wanted, I just detached so I could work better on individual features again. If I wanted something here, let's use the teapot for example, to be cut out of a different color vinyl. Oops. So there we go, I made a different color vinyl, but now if you try to attach, it's going to turn all of it into that color. So you can only have everything you want from one color of vinyl attached. If you want that one included in it, we would group it together, which I clearly forgot to do here, but you would kind of group all that together, but attaching just works when it's all the same color of vinyl. Another super random note, but for the iPad version here, when you want to pinch, you can see here with my fingers, you can pinch in and out to zoom, one finger to move things around, but remember to use 2 fingers on the screen when you're wanting to actually move around the canvas, look around the canvas in different areas. It's little things like that that sometimes take a little bit of time in the beginning to figure out, but once it becomes second nature, we always forget to mention it when we're teaching how to do something. So let's go ahead and look what this would look like being made. So all those being attached together, but the teapot would be elsewhere because it was out of green vinyl. Here another example is moving things around when you are getting ready to make them, to send them to your machine. If you like to save on vinyl, it's best to move things around. If you don't care how they are in line with each other, move all your separate things around to be on the same pages of vinyl, angled to use the least amount possible. So again, you can see here that we have 2 layers that would be cut out using that layer button to visualize the separate layers. So here back to our image set that I designed. Let's see what we want to do. So I'm going to move this one kind of out of the way. Remember the 1 finger drag to move it. I'm going to select these cookies over here that I drew. I am a huge chocolate chip cookie fan, and I am very offended when they are accidentally oatmeal raisin. Let me know if anyone's the same as me. Clearly I am craving sugar right now. So we went ahead and duplicated this image. I'm going to flip this one vertically just so it looks a little bit different, like we have a variety of cookies. Oops, so remember again, I'm actually going to just go back and attach all this first. So it's one solid image and the chocolate chips are not separate. So now I'm going to duplicate. So we have more cookies because more cookies are always better than less. So let's flip that one horizontally and one vertically just to see how we like it looking best, kind of what angle. So definitely it's looking too repetitive, so we're going to just pick fewer here, the one that we like the best. And I need some other images to go with it. We're going to go ahead and grab a cupcake. It is already attached as a solid image, so I don't need to attach anything because all the pieces are touching. There's no separate lines here. What to do? This is always the fun part. So initially designing can really feel like a daunting task, which is why it's nice that Cricut does provide those pre-done projects. But give it some time, find a nice relaxing weekend if you have one, to just play around in Design Space and see what you can do. It really becomes addicting really quickly to just move things around and have something that's more personable, something that you created that you can share with others. It is just a really fun experience. I'm going to add some text here, and using the enter button so I have multiple lines. I'm going to center my text, see what I like best. I've ended up back with a lot of left align text recently. I don't know why. I just think it looks good. So let's use that as an example of another sign or something we could cut out or have it draw. We're going to go ahead and attach all of it together so it's now one object. It moves together and can be adjusted as such instead of adjusting the individual items. Always remember to save your work. Definitely save as you go. Cricut Design Space is known to crash sometimes. Maybe it's just my iPad. But definitely save your project as you go. You can save it on the iPad or you can save it in the cloud. So you have options. I want to show you a little bit of shapes, just kind of some basic shapes to help us learn about some features. So if I were to just insert a shape right now, this is a square. If you unlock the ratio, you can turn it into more of a rectangle. Again, looking below, you can change the height and width using actual numbers or dragging the corner like I showed you. So let's see. I want to show you a really useful feature, which is the slice tool. So if we have two pictures over each other, it doesn't have to be basic shapes, but that's just an easy way to see it. You go down here to find that slice button, and just here in this first menu. What slice does, it cuts the overlapping portions of the image out. So we just cut part of a circle out of that rectangle we made. This can be really useful for different types of projects. For example, in a vinyl project I was making recently, making a bunch of honeycomb to go on a bottle. I'll actually link that video here if you want to see. But it was useful to splice out the label, the emblem on the cup, so I knew that my vinyl would be going around it, not on it. So that's really important. So here the send to back feature can be seen easier. So see that the rectangle went behind the words. Not really rectangle anymore. The funny shape that we cut some circles out of is now behind the words because I hit arrange and send to back. So you can see what it would look like better. I'm going to get rid of that funny shape because it wasn't very symmetrical and that bothers me. So we're going to enter some more shapes here just to play with. So we have a square and a triangle. I'm going to turn the square into a rectangle by unlocking the ratio and select both these shapes together. So what should we do? Let's just weld them together. So now you can see that took the cut line away between them. So instead of cutting out a triangle and then cutting out a rectangle below it, you'll cut the whole shape out like the house or arrow or whatever you want to call it. So I unattached and I have these items separately here. So if we were to add in this diamond shape, and then we line it on top of our big shape since we only have 2 layers selected, which is the rules for slicing them. We can cut that shape out of the big one. So there we go. So practicing around with those features like changing the shapes of things, changing the sizes, slicing things together, welding, it's really useful to us use the basic shapes feature to do that. So let's go back a couple other details I missed earlier. Your font, you can change to what you want it to look like cut out, or you can switch to writing, which is when the Cricut will write for you when you put the pen in slot A, I believe. You can also change things here to draw. Have it draw out the thicker text for you, but it does not fill it in. It will be an outline like you saw, which is a great way to make coloring pages, by the way. If you're last minute and can't make it to a store, you want to have your Cricut draw up a happy birthday card, something like that, and have your toddler color it in. It makes it look like you didn't forget to go to the store, and it's super special and handmade. Just a hint that I've used many times. So here I'm going to just kind of clear everything I have out. I'm actually just going to go new project because I just want a clean slate as I've done so much on there. Okay, so I'm going to insert just a couple more shapes to practice with because they are the easiest to show you the different tools. Let's go ahead and browse some images and just pick some here which are First ones they suggest. I don't really care what they look like. Just bring some images in to use. So we've got the little Cricut guy, a dog, and a slice of pizza. I don't know why it's teal. But anyways, let's combine some shapes here. And you can see those yellow lines showing up, telling you when things are centered horizontally, vertically, in line with different parts of the shape. Super useful so you don't have to guess. So let's take these two objects. Remember, only having two highlighted at a time in order to slice or weld. You cannot do more than that. So we've made a new little shape here. Let's add our little Cricut guy. So he's kind of peeking out over our new shape. So see, right now he's behind the shape hiding, which I don't love. Let's go ahead and select just him. Remember, going to edit and arrange, and let's send him to the front so his little hands get to peep out in front of the shape. Let's take that shape now and make it a different random color. I would accidentally pick the exact color of the guy. It came up at the top as a suggested color because it's a color that's already used on our canvas right now, by the way. So let's look at our layers here. Different shapes, everything we have going on. There's that image. Let's go ahead and hide it. That's what you do with the eyeball, or you can unhide it. And duplicate. So that left button in the layers duplicates it, so it makes another one. Let's go ahead and delete some layers. So as you could tell by today, my goal is just and see all the layers I've highlighted I'm going to hide, is just to get you a little bit more familiar with Design Space. So if you have any specific questions, anything you've run into where it's just not working, things you'd like to figure out, please go ahead and leave me a comment below so I know what you're needing, and I will do my best to try to show you, try to help you, because troubleshooting Design Space is really fun for me. So here's the pizza shape we have. We can unlock it if we wanted to change the ratio. I like it locked. Rotate it around. This is just an image provided by Cricut themselves in their image search. I'm going to go ahead and use this bottom center circle I showed you earlier to see what the layers look like. So you can see the green layers on top, and then that red, and then the pink. Okay. So let's see here. So I'm going to ungroup. I'm going to go ahead and slide these layers apart. So our pizza's in 3 little parts. I'm going to edit and change. I wanted to make sure it says cut at the top since we are cutting it out, but I'm going to change the color. Make it look a little bit more like pizza. But it doesn't actually matter because Cricut doesn't send colors or anything to your machine. You're hand picking out the vinyl or paper, whatever you're using. That's just to give you a rough idea of what it'll look like. So looking here, we're on, you can see because it says cut and has that color next to it, and on the right you can see the layer that's highlighted, and you know we're on that bottom crust layer. So let's go ahead and change that color a little bit. It's an ugly looking pizza, but you get the idea. So kind of separating layers out, changing it, flipping horizontally, but I didn't have the layers attached, so only one of them flipped. This is not what I want, but luckily undo button to the rescue. Select all of it together. And then we can attach or just straight flip it all horizontally since they're all selected now. A couple different ways to do it. That's one other nice thing about Design Space is they make several different ways to do one thing, different ways to get around something. That usually, even if it's something I don't know, I'm able to get there. So again, looking here at some of the pre-done projects. So these are if you're not doing it yourself. There's examples of cards, different things. But I want to go back to a blank canvas because that's the easiest way to learn here. I like to make my canvas set up. You can see at the top they have and on the left they have inches. I like to make it kind of similar to my mat size, at least the 12 inches across, so I know about what it would look like if it was sitting in front of me. And go back here to my own uploaded images. One more time, just because it's good practice on using a big image set. But again, you can download this one, you can download others from Etsy, from other individuals. You can use the one straight from Cricut. There's lots of options. And we're moving around images, selecting all of it. And that is a lot of the basics, not everything, definitely not everything, but a lot of the tools that I myself find useful in Design Space when I'm making something. Is your canvas, your make feature, what it looks like over there, changing sizes, shapes, attaching things, slicing things from each other, adding images and text, and then figuring out layers, what's going to be on top of each other. And yeah, so that's some of the big ones. So I want you to go ahead in the comments, if you can, tell me if you found this useful. What are some things you would like to learn about in Design Space? What are some things you'd like to work on to get better on? What do you like to do yourself? What are some of your go-tos? Maybe a go-to tool that I didn't show today. And then I want you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you can to follow along in the future, as I'm going to be doing some more Cricut projects, more Design Space, in addition to other types of crafts like crochet, some hand embroidery coming up, and just a little bit of everything. So thank you so much for staying with me today, and I will see you again soon.